your hands, creating space between your ears and your arms, moving your shoulder blades back. We're going to raise that right leg up to the ceiling into a three-legged dog, and then bringing it forward, hugging it in, and taking it back up again. Bringing it forward, placing it on the outside of that right hand. We're going to work into lizard lunge. So you can either stay here on your hands, keeping that bent knee close to the arm, or you can go onto your forearms, dropping your back knee if that feels good. And just relaxing into this lizard stretch, nice hip opener. Breathing into whichever part of your body feels tight. And then coming back up onto your hands, taking that right leg back into a three-legged dog, and then bringing it forward, placing that right knee towards the right wrist, toe heeling those toes back into a pigeon pose, puffing out the chest, and then folding forward onto forearms, or stretching the hands forward, whatever feels good. Keeping those shoulders away to the front of the mat, hips nice and level. If you want to, you can pop a block or a towel underneath your right hip. And then again, just breathing into whichever part of your body feels tight. And then walking your hands back, tucking the toes of the back foot and taking that right leg back up into a three-legged dog. And then bringing it forward and placing it to the outside of the mat at a 45-degree angle on the outside of the right hand. And then we're going to bring the left foot forward into Buddha squat or Malasana. So you can either take the weight onto your hands and come forward in one big step. Otherwise, you can take a few little steps to come forward. Feet at 45-degree angles. The wider your feet are apart, the easier it is. And if this is really hard for you, you can sit on a block. The aim here is it's a hip opener. So you want to use those elbows into the knees to push those knees apart, working into the hip opening. And just taking a few deep breaths here. And then planting your hands in front of you, raising your tailbone to the sky, and we're going to jump back into our down dog. And just making sure that your heels are behind your toes, that your feet are hip distance apart, which is roughly 2 fists between them. And then we're going to go over to the other side. So taking that left leg to the ceiling, and then bringing it forward, bringing that left knee to the armpit, rounding the spine, tucking it in, and then taking the left leg to the ceiling. And then bringing that left foot to the outside of the left hand into lizard pose. So staying here if that feels good, dropping onto the knee of the back leg if that feels good, going onto forearms, finding whatever you need to do to get that nice intense stretch into the hips, hugging the knee of the bent leg into the shoulder. And on every inhalation, creating space, and on every exhalation, softening into the pose. And then coming back up onto hands, taking that left leg behind you into a three-legged dog, and then bringing left knee towards left wrist, toe heeling that back leg back if you want to, doing whatever feels good for your knees, but ultimately aiming to get shin parallel to the front of your mat, shoulders parallel to the front of your mat, hips nice and level. That might mean placing a block underneath the left hip, moving the right hip slightly forward, puffing out that chest into a king pigeon, and then lowering down onto your forearms, stretching forward into pigeon pose. On every inhalation, creating space. On every exhalation, softening into the pose. And then walking your hands back, 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 back. Placing your hands shoulder distance apart, taking the toes of the back leg and taking that front leg back up into a three-legged dog, and then bringing it forward, placing it on the outside of the mat, 45-degree angle on the outside of your hands, and then either taking a few little hops forward or one big step forward and coming into a Buddha squat. Again, lifting that sternum, looking ahead so that you've got a nice open chest, using the elbows into the knees. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale. And as you exhale, we're going to plant our hands, lift the tailbone, shoot the legs back into a